Hi everyone, welcome to the first official day of our remote class. Today we will be talking about the participle and verb review. So before we get started, I have a couple things I want to go over, just general updates about the class, covering any comments and concerns people have had. So the first thing I want to say is please definitely email me by the end of today, letting me know that you've gotten my first email that was sent back on Monday. You can also post on Blackboard, that's fine. Just let me know that you are in control of the situation, you know what's happening, and you're not lost somewhere in the abyss. The second thing I want to talk to you about today is the fact that I will be posting a video later, either today or tomorrow, discussing the midterm and some issues people had, common problems that came up, so we'll kind of have a way to go over the midterm even though we're not in person. The last thing I want to talk about is the general format for our assignments. So today is going to be a good example of what these assignments will be composed of. So I will post a video on any given Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, depending on what we're doing. And that will be posted by noon, as well as your assignment for the following Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. So for instance, today I am posting this video and the assignment by noon on Wednesday, and then it'll be due Friday at noon, 48 hours from now. So you'll have 48 hours at least between assignments to complete them at whatever time is convenient for you. And you just need to hand it in by that time on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday because Blackboard will be keeping track automatically. If you have any trouble with sending it in or submitting, please let me know and we'll try and get that worked through. Okay, the next update is that we have no quiz on Friday this week. It's been a hectic week and I don't think anyone wants a quiz right now, so we'll wait until next Friday to kind of get the official schedule going. Okay, so along those lines, how to turn in your assignments. So every day that we have an assignment, it will be posted on Blackboard. So you click on the link under course materials, you download the assignment, it'll be a Word doc generally, maybe a PDF at some point if that's necessary, but generally a Word doc. You download that, you complete the assignment either on that same Word doc or a separate Word doc, and then you upload it again to Blackboard before the noon deadline on whatever day it's due. And that way I can check through it, give you whatever feedback, and send it back to you before the following assignment is due. Word docs are the easiest way for me to look at things. PDFs are also fine. If you need to handwrite it, take a picture and send it to me. Just let me know ahead of time so that I can kind of be prepared to edit that sort of assignment, and that would be great. Okay, so what we're going to talk about first today is principal parts. So this topic has been discussed by me before in our class, but I think it's important to go over again in terms of our participle and verb review. So if you look at the principal parts of any given verb, for non-deponent verbs, you'll have 4 principal parts generally. So you'll have this first principal part, amo in this case, the second principal part, amare, amawi, and then amatis is the 4th principal part. So the first principal part is always used for the present, both indicative and subjunctive. It's used for the imperative, the future tense, and also the imperfect tense in the indicative. So that's what the first principal part is used for. And all of this is also in your book, but just for a quick review, I'm going to go through it. Amare, the second principal part, is used for the infinitive. So if I ever say something is just the second principal part, that means it's the infinitive. Your book doesn't always include these infinitives if you can just tell from the conjugation. So it'll usually have a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4 here. So you'd have amo, 1, amawi, amatis. But just know that the second principal part is always the infinitive. And this infinitive is also used to form the imperfect subjunctive, as we know. So for instance, if you want the third person singular perfect subjunctive of amo, you would have amaret. So you just add your endings onto this infinitive stem for the imperfect subjunctive. Okay, so then we have amawi, which is our perfect form. So this third principal part gives every form of the perfect active and also the pluperfect active. So just perfect and pluperfect active, both subjunctive and regular indicative. So perfect, pluperfect, active come from this third principal part. The perfect infinitive also comes from this third principle part, perfect active indicative to be specific. Okay, and then the fourth principle part, amatus, is what gives us the perfect and pluperfect passive forms. So active, third principle part, passive, fourth principle part. And amatus also gives us the perfect passive infinitive. So the amatus aum esse is that perfect passive infinitive form. Okay, so we have first principle part, generally present, future, imperfect, indicative, also the imperative. Second principle part is the infinitive and the imperfect subjunctive. Third principle part, perfect and pluperfect passive forms, as well as the perfect active forms, as well as the perfect active infinitive. And then fourth principle part is pluperfect and perfect passive forms. So passive, active, active. And the perfect passive infinitive as well comes from that fourth principle part. Okay. So everything I've just said holds true for non-deponent verbs. But when you have a deponent verb like minor, it's a little bit different. Mostly the same, a little bit different. So your first principle part for minor still gives you the present tense, both subjunctive and indicative. It gives you the imperative. It gives you the imperfect and future indicative, just like the first principle part of amo. The second principle part is still the infinitive. So regardless of what you have here, this is the infinitive. If you just have minor one minatus, that one is just standing in the place of the infinitive. So the second principle part is always the infinitive. And just like amo, that second principle part, the infinitive, also gives you the imperfect subjunctive. Okay, and then the third principle part, because we're dealing with a deponent verb, this is the perfect active forms, as well as the pluperfect active forms, and the perfect active infinitive. Deponent verbs can never be passive. No matter what, doesn't matter, deponent verbs never passive. So if you have a deponent verb, it has to be active. There's no choice for it to be passive. So if you're parsing and you see deponent, just automatically put active. You don't even have to think about it further. And the verb will always tell you it's deponent, so either in the dictionary or if I give you a vocab list, it would just say deponent and you'd know that it could not be passive. Okay, that's why it does not have any fourth principle part. There's no perfect passive here, no pluperfect passive. Just perfect active is that third principle part. It looks like the fourth principle part of non-deponent verbs, but it's not. It's just the perfect and pluperfect active. Okay, great. Okay, so the next topic we're going to cover is participles, having gone over all of our principal parts. So, the way participles work. Future participles. We only know future active participles so far. So they come from that fourth principle part, so amatus in this case, and you add urus aum, so you get amaturus, amatura, amaturum. Present participles are mostly noted by that nt or ns they have, so you take the first principle part, as you see here, you add an ns or nt, and then your third declension noun endings. So you have amans and then amantis, or amantem, amantum, whatever endings are relevant. So that's third declension, you will note, and it's from the first principle part because it's present. Perfect participles, if you have the deponent, it will come from the third principle part, which is because it is active. If you have a non-deponent verb, it comes from the fourth principle part because it is passive. So perfect participles are either active or passive depending on their deponent or non-deponent, and they get regular first and second declension noun endings, so osau. So deponent, third principle part, active, non-deponent, fourth principle part, passive, perfect participles. Okay, next is a review of the infinitives. So, the way the infinitives work. You have future infinitive, only ever active. We're not going to talk about the passive because it doesn't really exist. So, future active infinitives. You take that fourth principal part, the amatus, you add urus aum, just like you do for the future participle. So you get amaturus aum, and then you add esse. So amaturus aum esse is the future infinitive, active. The present infinitive comes from that second principal part, as we discussed just recently. So you have amara in the present active infinitive, and then amari in the present passive infinitive. And that present passive infinitive, the amari, is the same as the deponent would be for a deponent verb. So you get minor, minari if you have the deponent form. And then in the perfect infinitive, you also have active and passive. So you have amawissa in the perfect active infinitive. So amawissa comes from amawi, that third principal part, and then you add sse at the end to get amawissa. And then in the perfect passive infinitive, you take the fourth principal part, so amatus aum, and then you add esse. So amatus aum esse is the perfect passive infinitive. Okay, as far as finite verbs go, that's all of the verbs that end in ost, mustis, und, or the perfect endings, isti, it, imis, istis, und. You have the imperfect, so you have bomba, spot, you have the future, bobis, bit. Anything with those 6 different endings, the singular and plural, first, second, and third person, are called finite verbs. So that's to distinguish them from infinitives, which we've just talked about. So you have infinitives, you have finite verbs, and you have participles. And those are the 3 different forms you can get from any verb. So finite verbs are the only ones that are technically verbs. They're the only ones that can act as the verb of the sentence, where participles and infinitives rely on those other verbs and do different things in the sentence. So participles act more like adjectives, really. They agree with nouns, and they kind of modify those nouns, while infinitives are either complementing the main verb, or they're part of an indirect statement, or they're doing something else, but they're never the main verb of the sentence, so they're not finite verbs. So we have finite, infinitive, and participle. So for your assignment today, that will be due on Friday, you're going to distinguish between these 3 different types of forms. So all of the instructions are on Blackboard, but basically you're going to tell me whether a verb is a finite verb or you have some other form, so you have a participle or infinitive. And after that, you're going to parse it, just so that I know you know how to parse these sorts of things. Okay, if you have any questions, again, please email me, set up some questions on Blackboard, ask in the comments below this video if you want to get more technical. I hope you all have a great day, and I will talk to you again soon. All right, bye-bye.